Hello everyone, in this video we're going to be walking through the procedure that can be used to make a Netflix clone using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Firstly, let's start off by looking at what the actual Netflix site looks like, and then we'll move on to what the end product of this project was look like. So this is the actual Netflix site with the navigation bar here. You have the language drop down menu and the sign in button, and then there is this email input bar. Here are some text, and these are some cards within which we have some text and we have some animations right over here. Then we have these things and we have the footer. Alright, so this is the actual Netflix site, and this is what we're going to be making today. So it also has the navigation bar as it is, and it has the language menu, it has the sign in button and the email address input bar, and these cards along with the animations and the footer. So let's hop on to the code. So here I have added the basic HTML boilerplate, and here we have the meta tags. We have the meta tags, and this is the metadata inside the head tag, which is typically used to specify the character set, page description, keywords, etc. And we'll change the title here. We'll change the title to what it looks like on the actual Netflix site. So this is what we want to write. So let's write it here. Fix India, watch TV shows online, watch movies online. Okay, so that was our title, and when you go here on this page, you can see that the title is reflecting on the tab, and it is exactly the same as we have in the original Netflix site. So that was it, and also inside the head, we'll be linking our style sheet here. So that was all about the head part of the code, and now we'll move on to the body. So first of all, when we open the Netflix site, we see that you have a navigation bar right over here, and within the navigation bar, you have three items that are the logo of the Netflix, the language drop down menu, and the sign in button. So let's move on to creating that. We'll keep our navigation bar inside the header, and the tag for navigation bar is nav. Let's just give it a class called navbar. Alright, and we'll keep the logo, that is, we'll keep the image of the logo inside a division because it will be easy to style and it will be easy to align the logo accordingly as we want. Otherwise, if we just use the image tag and give it in directly inside the navbar, then it will be a bit problematic to resize it or to align it properly according to our own needs. So we'll create a div here, and we'll also give this a class. Let's say it is navbar, the Netflix logo. Alright, so we'll use the image source here, and I have already downloaded the images that I need for this one, but you can also go to the internet and you can download it from anywhere, or you can use a link from the internet directly itself. You don't need to download the image. I'll keep the alt as logo. Now let's see. Yes, we have got the logo right over here, but it is quite big and it is not perfectly aligned as we want it to be. We'll do it later when we are styling this. Let's just add all the things we need right now in the navigation bar, and then we'll move on to styling the navigation bar. Let's also add a class inside the image that we'll be needing when we'll be styling the logo according to our needs. So let's just name it Netflix logo. Moving on, we'll be creating another div inside which we'll be putting the other two items, which are the language drop-down menu and the sign-in button. So we'll give this div a class called navbar, nav items. We are calling it items because within this div we'll be adding two items, that is the language drop-down menu and the sign-in button. Let's create another div inside this in which we'll be creating the language drop-down menu, and we'll name it as nav item. That is the first item that we'll be creating, and the first item which we are creating is the drop-down container. Inside this, we'll be using the select tag, which is used for creating drop-down menus, and we'll name it as languages. And let's give it a class called language dropdown. Inside this, you can give options. Option value, let's keep it as first one as English. And second as Hindi. Now what we want is, by default, this drop down menu should display English. So we will write selected here so that the drop down menu by default displays English. You can add other languages here as well, but that's all that we'll be needing as of now. So let's move on. After this, we have another div class which is nav item 2. That is the sign in button. We'll use the button tag here to add the sign in button, and let's give it a class called sign in button, and here it will say sign in. Alright, so let's see whether these changes are implemented here or not. Yes, they are. So we have this drop down menu wherein we have two languages that are English and Hindi, and we have the sign in button right over there. So that was all that we'll be needing inside our navigation bar, and now here we have created a common class for the entire navigation bar that will have some CSS attributes which we'll write shortly, and within these we have specific classes that are assigned to the navigation bar items, that are the languages drop down menu and the sign in button. Let's move on to the styling part of this navigation bar, as we already have all the three items that we'll be needing for a navigation bar: the logo, the language dropdown, and the sign in button. So let's get into the styling portion. Alright, so here I'll set the universal selector for removing all the extra spaces that we do not need in our page. So I'll assign the margin as 0, the padding as 0, and the box sizing as border box. Now, as you can see that the Netflix background is mostly black, and anything, whatever is put, it is put onto that, it is put above that. So we'll also design our body structure here, wherein we'll give the background color as black, and anything that comes on top of it, the foreground color should be white. We'll also set the default font if nothing else is specified. There. Now, if you refresh this page, you can see that we have got the background color as black, and the drop down menu and the buttons, these are all in white because we've set the foreground color to white. After this, let's get into the specification of this class navbar right here, because as you can see right now, the logo is quite big, and also these are aligned one below the other, not one in front of the other, as they are supposed to be aligned horizontally here, but they are not aligned like that. So let's get into that. So the class is dot navbar. I'll set the position to absolute. I do not want any spaces on top of it, so I'll set the top as 0. The width should be 100%. Now, one thing that we noticed here, that these are coming one below the other and not one after the other horizontally like they are supposed to come. So for that, we'll use flex. We'll set the display here as flex. And now if you refresh it, these are coming in a horizontal line. I'll justify content as space between, so that there is spaces between the Netflix logo and the sign in button and the language drop down. We'll see that later when we have resized the Netflix logo according to what it is supposed to be. Now let's get into the specifications of what the div that we have created inside which the logo is placed, what that div should be like. So we have named this class as navbar Netflix. We'll set the width as 125 pixels. And we'll set the height as 100%. Now let's see. All right, we still need to do some changes here. So we have to alter the class right here, which we have named as navbar nav items. So when we'll do this, I'll keep the display here as flex as well. And the gap should be 10 pixels. Okay, now let's get into the logo which we have placed. We'll get into the class navbar, not navbar, Netflix logo. This class right over here, which we have assigned to the image. So the logo will be 100% both in width and height, because we have set the division width and height here where we have kept the logo, but the image, the size image will always be 100%. Yes, so we have the logo assigned right here. We have the logo in the leftmost corner, and we have the drop down menu here, and we have the sign in button. But as you can see, the logo is quite aligned to the leftmost corner, and we do not need it like that. We need some spacing here. We need some spacing here. So for that, we'll add some padding to the navbar. Let's say we'll add a padding of 3% and 5%. So now you can see that the spacing is justified there, and the alignment of all these are in perfect inclination towards the original website, Netflix website. One thing that we'll specify here is the Z index. We'll specify the Z index here, as when we will be putting the background image for this one, then the navigation bar might overlap. The background image might overlap the navigation bar, and we might not able to see the navigation bar right over here. So we'll put the Z index, which will tell the stack order, in which the navigation bar should be above the background image and everything else that is there on the web page. So that was all about the logo. Now let's move on to the language drop-down menu that we created. We'll keep the background as transparent. We don't need any border, so we'll keep the border as none. And the color of the text should be white. Let's see, yes, we have got this here. But right now, as you can see, there is one thing missing from here, that is this globe icon. We do not have this globe icon, and we do not have this white border that is right over here. We do not have it in our page as of now. So for putting the globe icon, I'll head over to a site called Font Awesome CDN. And we'll go down here, and then we'll just copy paste this link into our head. We'll just copy paste this link into our head, and then we'll go to the website again. We'll go to the icons, and we can search an icon here. So let's say, for example, we search globe, because that is what we need right now. So this is the globe icon. And let's say that we'll copy this link right here into the class where we have put our drop down menu. So I'll put this here. Now when we go to our web page, we can see that this globe icon is present here. Now the next thing that we need to do is we need to put a border across this. We need to put a white border across this drop down menu. So let's get into designing that. We'll take the class drop down container, and then we'll set the border as 1 pixel solid white, because we need a white border there, and we'll set the border as 1 pixel solid white. We'll set the padding to, let's say, 0.4 rem. The border radius, because we need a slightly curved border. As you can see right here, this border is not quite rectangular, it is a bit curved, and ours is purely rectangular. So we'll put border radius for the curved edges. So we'll put the border radius as, let's say, 4 pixels, and the background for the drop down menu. Let's check this. So yes, we have got a curved border right here, and we have got these options, these language options. Now our logo is ready, our drop down menu is ready. Let's get into designing our sign in button. Dot sign in button. So we also need a border for this, which should be the color that Netflix has. So the color code for Netflix red color is DC0030F. And we'll make the background color as the same. Now you can see it is red, but we need this color, we need this sign in to be white here. So let's set the color as white. And we'll do the padding. Let's say 0.25 rem and 0.5 rem. We'll also give the border radius as 4 pixels because this also needs to be curved a bit. Now let's check our sign in button. It's still small, so we have to resize it. So let's alter the height as let's say 35 pixels and the width as 100 pixels. So now you can see that the drop down menu and the sign in button are perfectly aligned and we have our navigation bar ready. Next up, we have the body. We have the main content of this page. We have created the navigation bar, we have created the logo, these are language drop down and the sign in button. Now let's get on to the things that come below that. That is these text, these email address bar and the background image and these cards. So we'll come to the main section and we'll create a section here which will give the class as hero. Inside this section, we'll create a div that will contain the background image, that will have a container which will have the background image. So we'll create a div here. Background image container, and we'll use the image tag here. I have already downloaded the images, so I'll give the source from this. If you want, you can also directly download this background image from the Netflix site itself. You can save this image and it will be saved in your system. Let's give the alt as background image and we'll give a class here bg image. So let's see, we must have got the background image right over here. Yes, we have this right here. And now the problem with this is that the image is overflowing. It is not exactly fitting into this window. It is overflowing. The image is a bit zoomed in than the original image that we put here. So for that, let's get into styling this and we'll see some things here. Firstly, we have the I'll put the width here as 100% and the 100%. All right. Now this was for the container which has our image inside of it. Let's get into editing the image, applying the properties on the image. I'll do similar here as I've done with the Netflix logo. I'll give the width as 100%, the height as 100% as well. And I'll write here object fit as cover so that the image is covering the entire window. Now, as you can see, the image earlier was a bit zoomed in, it was overflowing, it was not covering the entire window, but now it is. So we changed this using object fit and we assigned it as cover. Now, one more thing is you can see that on the original Netflix side, you have a black hue, you have a black gradient on the top of the background image. The background image is not quite visible. It is not quite as vivid as the image. It has a little bit of a black gradient on top of it. So for that, we'll create another div which will give it the class as background overlay. Now let's get into designing this overlay. I'll set the position here as absolute. I'll write inset here as 0, as I do not want margin on either side of the page. I do not want it on the top, left, right, or bottom. So instead of using all the 4 attributes differently, we can use just inset as one, and it is a shorthand for the margin attribute. I'll set the width as 100%, the height as 100% as well. And now I'll give the background color. So for the background, we are going to be using the RGBA attribute. We are going to be using the RGBA property because we need a very transparent and a very little color over there. We do not need a very solid color. I'll keep this as 0.4. Alright, so let's see. Yes, as you can see, the image has now got a black gradient to it, and it is not as vivid and as clearly visible as it was before. So it kind of resembles what we have here on the original Netflix site. Moving on to the next portion. Now we have put the background image correctly, and we are done with the navigation bar. Now let's move on to these text and this email address bar that is right here. So firstly, we'll be putting these text inside our code. So let's create another div. And we'll give the class as hero card. Inside this div, I'm using the h1 tag because I want the text to be bold and I want the text to be acting as a header here. So we'll give this a class as well. And let's call this hero title. Inside this, we will write the text that we have here. And as you can see, these texts are aligned in 2 lines. These texts are aligned, not aligned in one single line. Like it is written unlimited movies, TVs, you have a line break, and then you have shows and more. So for this, we will use the BR attribute, that is the break tag. Let's write this here and let's see what we get. Okay, so we cannot see the text right now. Let's design it first and then we will move on to see how it is. And as I said earlier, we are going to be adding a break tag here because we need the text to be in 2 different lines. So we're going to add a break tag right here. The other text that we require over here, I'm going to take it inside the h2 tag and I'll give it a class. Then the text that we need here is this: watch anywhere, cancel anytime. So I'm just going to copy paste it right from here. And I'll paste it here. Now the next thing that we have is this text right over here. So we'll use the paragraph tag for it. We don't need to use the h tag for this. We'll use the paragraph tag and we'll give this a class as well. Let's say hero description. And we will copy this text right from here. Now the thing which I would like to add here is we need this entire text in just one line. We need this entire text in a single line. So it might be possible that this text is a bit long, so it might be getting elongated into 2 lines. But since we need it at 1 line, we are gonna add the no break tag here. And we'll put this content inside the no break tag, so it will come into a single line. So the first class that we're going to take up here is hero card, under which we have the hero title, the hero subtitle, and the hero description. So let's get started with this. Here I'll keep the position as absolute and the top here to 30%. As if I'll not put this, if I'll not put this, then you can see the text is below this picture. The text is below the background picture, but we want it above the background picture and approximately 30% below the navigation bar. So I'll take top as 30%. Then the text alignment will be center. Display is going to be flex. And the flex direction is column. We also need some gapping between the elements of this, so we'll assign the gap as 10 pixel. Moving on to the title, we'll keep the font weight as 600 and the font size as 2rem. After this, we have two more classes, that is the subtitle and the description, but we don't need different CSS classes to describe their properties, so we'll use it in one itself. So here I'll go with hero subtitle. Description. Keep the font weight as 400 and the font size as 1rem. Now, as we can see that this text is 30% down from the top side, but it is still aligning to the extreme left. So we'll also add some left spacing here. We want it to be in the center, so let's say 50%. All right, no. Let's try to keep it 30% as well. So yes, we get the desired text in the middle when we use the 30% attribute from the left and the top sides. But as you can see, this text is still very small and we want it to be a bit on the larger side. We want it to be more big than that. So I'll change the font size here to 3rem and this one to maybe 1.3. So this text is now, yes, this text is now perfectly in the size that we want it to be, but yet it is not in the center. So we'll decrease this left spacing by, let's say 5%, we'll make it 25%. And now, yes, now we have got it perfectly in the center and it is the size which we want it to be. Next up is the email address box and this get started button. So let's hop on to that. And since we want this email address tag and the get started button both to be in the same line, so we'll again use the no break tag here. For the email address, we'll take input type and we'll change it to email. We'll also write placeholder here and we will write email address. The placeholder is a temporary text which shows whenever you are about to write a text and it automatically disappears when you write something in it. So we've added the email address tag and let's add the button which says get started. We'll also assign classes to these. We'll give this the class email and we'll give this the class as. We'll give this the class as get started. Now, as you can see that we have got this email address tag right here and the get started button right here. Now, all we have to do is we have to align these in below this text. We have to align these both. So firstly, we'll go with the email. I'll give it the width of, let's say, 450 pixel, height of approximately 60 pixel, color black, as whatever the email will be entering, it will be black in color, and the padding as 0.25 rem and 0.5 rem. Next up, I'll give the border radius, as the border is not supposed to be absolutely rectangular, it is a bit curved on the edges. So let's give the border radius as 3 pixels, and the border color would be white. After this, we'll go to the get started button. So we'll keep the font size as large and view width as 170 pixel, height as 60 pixel. Background color will be the same which we have used for the Netflix sign in button, and the border will be same colored as well. So let's see what our page looks like. Alright, so the email address and the get started button are perfectly aligned here. However, the get started button is white in color and we still have black here, and we have this symbol missing. So we'll add that. And we'll assign the color as white. Yes, it's perfect. Now, as you can see, there is no space between these two. This text and this box, there is no space between these two. However, in the original site, there is some spacing between these. So what I can do to create some spacing between these is add some break tags here. So let me add few break tags here. Now let's take a look at it. Oh, it's gone to the left. Just 1 second. I refresh this tab and now it's working properly. So, alright. So that one was pretty much what we had to do for this section. As you can see, this section is perfectly just like the actual Netflix site, and it has some minor alterations, but more or less it does look like the Netflix site. So let's move on to the next part. The next section that we are going to create is for these cards here, right here. These cards or these boxes which you can see, and it is quite easy because you just need to create one card like this, and then you can just copy the other rest of the three like this, and we'll just have to change the text alignment and the picture and the animation. This is a GIF, so we'll just change the alignment for that. Now this section is over. Let us create a new section, and we'll give this section a class as, let's say, style cards. Inside this, we're gonna be creating a div class, and we'll call it card1. Inside this again, we'll create another division because we need the text separately and we need the images and the GIF to be styled separately. So we'll create a container inside which we will put the text and the GIF or the images that are put there. So we'll create another div, and we'll give it a class as description1. Now inside this, when you go here, you can see there is this huge text right over here, and there is this paragraph beneath it. So we can use the h1 tag for this, and we'll use the h3 tag for this text. So I'll put the h1 tag here, and I'll just copy paste this content. After this, I'll put the h3 tag for the text that is beneath it, and I'll copy paste here this as well. Now, as you can see that this text is divided into 3 lines. This text is in 3 lines. So we have to give break tags after the letters or after the words, after which we need a new line. We need the text to be aligned in a new line. As you can see that this is all in one line here, but we need it in 3 separate lines. So let's just add the break tags. We need one break tag after this X box. So we'll add one break tag here. And we need the second break tag after and. So we have added 2 break tags, and now as you can see, we have our text in 3 different lines as it is on the site. After this, we'll add the image here, which is this TV icon right here, this TV image right here, and I'll add this GIF on top of it using the Z index, and I'll assign, first of all, I'll put the image of the TV on the background, and then I'll put this video, this GIF on top of it. So I've downloaded this image as well, but as I've told, if you want, you can just use this image right from the internet, or you can download it for yourself from anywhere. I'll keep the alt as, let's say, Netflix TV. Next up, we'll use the video attribute for putting the GIF in the foreground of the image of that TV that we have put earlier. And we'll give the type here as video/mp4. Now you also need to have some attributes for this video, which will tell if the video will be muted, or will it play sound, or will it autoplay, or will it play on loop. So I'll break this source right here. And I'll assign a video class as video1. I'll give it a property of autoplaying. Plays in line. And it should be muted. And it will go on loop. We need to write source src here. So as you can see here, the TV image, the TV logo that we put is also here, and the GIF that we put is also here. Now all we need to do is align this. We need to align all this into one line, and we need to put the text over here and this along with this GIF over here on the right. So let's just create the other cards as well, and then we'll do the alignment for all of them together. We'll do the styling for all of them together. I'll create another div here, and I'll give it the class as card2. Now inside this card2, I'll put the image tag for the image of the second card, and I'll give the alt as Netflix file. I'll do the same thing inside this. I'll create one h1 tag, and I'll create one h3 tag, and within these I'll put the text that are supposed to be there. So this one will be inside the h1 tag, and this right here will be inside the h3 tag. Now as you can see, even in this h1 tag we have a break here and we have a break here as well. So let's just put that. We'll put a break after this. And we'll put a break after this. Yes, we have our image right here and we have these text as we wanted to be. Similarly, the third card, I'm going to name this class as card 3. And inside this, I'll make another division that we will call description 3. Now we are doing it so that we can put the video and the GIF and the images that we want to put properly, and we can align them and we can style them properly according to how we need them to be displayed. I'll again use the h1 and the h3 tags here and just copy paste the text. We also have a break here after on, so let's put a break here after on. All right. We have still to put our picture and the GIF here, so let's do that. We'll use the video attribute in the similar manner that we have used above. So I'll just copy paste it and I'll change the source of the video. I'll change the video that we are putting here. We'll put this and we'll change the class to video 2. That's it. We have added all the things that we require to add here. The video is not displaying. 1 second. Alright, it is right here. Right now the video and the image are apart, but we'll put it on top of each other when we are styling this. So let's get into styling. Now, since we've kept all these cards inside the classes called card 1, card 2, and card 3, and we have to put a similar look for all 3 of them, so we'll just take them all together. I'll take the border on the top. As you can see right here that we have some grayish borders, thin grayish borders on the top of each of them. So I'll take the border on the top of 8 pixel and I'll use the RGB code for this. So it is and 69. All right. Now we'll give the padding of 50 pixel. Now we have the specific card styling. So firstly, we'll go on card 1 and I'll give the position as relative. I'll put the display as inline grid. Now inline grid creates an inline level box for the container. However, it doesn't know if it has to be in column or if it has to be in rows. For that, we'll use grid template as columns and we'll give them as 50% and 40%. After that, the text alignment for the first box should be left, and the alignment of all the items should be in center. And I'll give the basic padding here. Alright, so let's see what this looks like. So as you can see, now we have got the text on the left hand side and we have got this image on the right hand side as we needed it to be. Now we'll add this GIF on top of this so that it looks as we can see here. We also have the spacing here a little less than what it is supposed to be. So we'll change the styling for the description 1 class that we created, and we'll add a padding here to the left as, let's say, 80 pixel. So now you can see that it has got spaced out and it is exactly like how we see it here. Moving on to the card 1 video, the GIF that we have given there for the same, we have taken the class as video. I'll set the position as relative. Width as 100%. Height as 54%. You can alter the width and height according to how you see, how you want to clone any website. I am doing this because it is in proportion to what we have to make right now, and you can do this according to your own needs. Now we'll use the grid column and grid row, which specifies the inline start and the inline edge of a grid area. It specifies where to start and where to end the grid. The grid row. I'll give the z index of this as -1. Now let's move on to the image for the same. And here I'll give grid column as by 2. So let's go to our website and see. Alright, we have the video here, but we don't have the image modified yet. Alright, we have to just use img here, not image. So let's see now. Yeah, so the GIF is perfectly aligned on top of this, and we have our text also over here. However, we still need to alter our text because this text appears more big in font than this one. So let's get on to that. Now we've used h1 and h3 tags for all the text that we have put here, and we will edit it according to that itself. So we'll take the class here, style cards, which we took initially when we are creating this section. So we'll take the card style cards, and firstly we'll style the h1 tags. So font size is going to be 3 rem. Padding will be 1 rem, and we also need a little padding towards the left. So we'll add padding left as 0 because when you see here, when we have not added padding left, this text doesn't appear to be in alignment with the text that is below it. So this text isn't in proper alignment with this one. So now when we put padding left is equals to 0, you can see that this text is now in perfect alignment with the text below it. So that was it for the h1 tags. Now let's move on to the h3 tags. I'll take the font size as 1.6 rem, and I'll take the line height as 2rem, so that we have some spacing between the H1 and the H3 texts. And also we have some spacing between these texts that are written over here. There is some issue with the break tag that we used. So it is appearing in 4 lines. Let's check that. So let's suppose that we remove this break tag from here. So now we are getting it in 3 lines, exactly as we wanted it here to happen. So perfect, we are done with our first card. Now we'll move on to the second and third one. And also, as you can see, since we have styled these style cards for all the H1 and all the H3 tags that we have, so all these texts are already in perfect alignment and in perfect shape as we want them to be, and we don't need to make any more changes to these texts. Also, one thing that I remembered just now, that we have put div class as description 1 and description 3 right over here, but we haven't put description 2 here, so we'll change this. We'll give this the class as description 2, and after that we'll put all this inside this div. So let's get on to styling the second card that we have by the name of card 2. The position is going to be relative again. Display is inline grid. Let's do one thing, that it is quite same for the card 1 that we created here. The card 2 is quite same with only some minor changes. So we'll copy paste this from here. And this will be reversed. This will now be 40% and 50%. Let's check. Okay, we still have to edit the image, and we still need to give the padding for the description 2. So we'll give left padding as 100%. Moving on to the card 3. So the card 3 and card 1 are totally similar, since they both have the text on the left hand side and the image or the GIF that is there on the right hand side. So we'll just copy everything from card 1 and we'll paste it here inside card 3. Now card 3 also has a GIF and an image. As you can see here, it also has a image and it also has a GIF that is to be placed on top of this image. So let's style that. Before that, we'll also give the description 3 styling. We'll give the padding left as 80 pixel and we'll give padding right as 20 pixel. After that, card 3 image. So we'll give the width here as 110%. These measurements are just relative to what we are making, and these can vary from site to site and they can vary from requirement to requirement per person. Next up, the grid column. And the grid row. Then we have the card 3 video. So inside this, we'll again put the position as relative. We'll give the top margin as minus 87 pixels. I'll show you why we are doing that. Left as 125 pixel. We'll align the width as 65% and the height as 78%. After that, we'll also put grid column here. And the grid row and the z index as -1. So we're all done with this section, and now let's see what it looks like. All right, perfect. So we have these gray borders here as well. We have the GIFs running over on our images which we put in the background. We have the perfectly aligned text, and that is it. Now we want to add the footer. We want to add this part right over here. So we'll come out of the main section and we'll add the footer tag here. We'll give this a class called footer. And inside this footer, as you can see here, we have some columns. We have some links here which are arranged in the form of columns, and here they are listed like this. So we'll use unordered lists and we'll divide them into columns, and then we can design this in a quite similar manner like it is here. So inside this tag, first of all, if we see, we have this text over here. So we'll just add this using the p tag. And we will copy paste this text from here to here. Now after this, we'll create a division inside which we will put our unordered list, and we will classify this division as the footer col or footer columns. So let's start adding our unordered lists over here. And we have 4 items right here. So we'll just copy paste this for 4 times. And inside these tags, we'll copy paste the content from here. And the last one is speed test. We'll create similar unordered list in the same manner so that we can write these as well, the remaining ones. And then after, we'll just change the text that is inside of it. So I've changed these terms right over here, and we are pretty much done with our HTML code. So if you see right here, you can see that these all are there in the place of the footer. Now all we have to do is style it, and it will go into accordance with this perfectly. I'll take the footer class here. Write footer here, and we'll also write footer A for all the text that we have written inside the footer. The color is gray, so the color code for the gray is 999, and the font size is going to be 0.9 rem. After this, we'll style this text right over here, which we have put in the p tag. So we'll write footer p, and we have to put a margin on its bottom because we need some spacing between that and the unordered list that we have created. So let's put the margin as 1.5 rem. After that, we'll go on to the columns. The display will be grid. The grid template columns will be repeating. Repeating for 4 times and within one fraction of space. And the gap between these grids will be 2 rem. We'll give the properties for the list items that is inside the footer. So footer li, that is short for list items. We'll give the line height of 1.9. So that is pretty much it, and this is the footer on the original website, and this is the footer that we've got right over here. Now, as you can see that it is quite aligned to the extreme left here, but here we have some space from the left as well as from the right hand side. So we'll create some padding. We'll create some padding over here, and let's say padding left is 50 pixel, and we'll put the same inside the text that is above that. So now you can see that there is some space here as well, and we are pretty much done with the landing page of Netflix. Firstly, we started with the navigation bar wherein we put in the Netflix logo, the language drop-down menu, and the sign-in button. Then we moved on to putting the background image here, and we put a black gradient over it, due to which the display was not quite vivid, as it is not in the original Netflix site. It has a black gradient over it, and we have put that on our page as well. After that, we put these texts here, and then we put the email address box, the get started button. We have these cards here which have images and GIFs on them, and the text right over. After that, we have the footer. So that was all about it. So this was all about this video, and I hope that everything is clear. Thank you so much.